fabulous landscapes, unspoiled nature, sandy beaches, ideal places for relaxation, adventure and active leisure, outstanding cuisine, unusual stories and traditions. All this and much more can be found in the cities of the South Baltic Sea. Each of them has its own unique atmosphere and much to offer tourists. Let's take a look at the charms of the Baltic coast.
Hello.
With a number of beautiful spots, luxurious bathing areas and intimate resting places close to nature. Johann. The Baltic Sea is the third most popular cruise destination in the world. The market, however, has been dominated by large cruise operators, which offer so many attractions on the decks that for travelers a city loses its attractiveness. Most of the time and money is spent on the deck of a vessel. The cities that have invested so much in port infrastructure to welcome cruise giants do not get much of it. The future of cruise market development is reflected in a new service: small and medium cruise ships. The islands and towns of the southern Baltic are open to visitors whose knowledge of history, tastes and traditions will make a stronger pulse, and each city will benefit from it. We go on a pilot cruise through the cities and ports with the Johann project partners. We will visit 3 countries in 14 days. We will see 7 fascinating cities and their diversity. The journey starts in Gdynia. It is a young, modern Polish Baltic city, which together with Sopot and Gdańsk create a tri-city. As a large Polish port, Gdynia developed only after the First World War. Today, it is an important industrial and commercial center and a known seaside resort, attracting tourists from all over the world. With the largest modern marina in Poland, a maritime academy and historic vessels moored at the quays, it has been described as the sailing capital of Poland. This is a great point to start a journey. The vessel with which we will explore the towns and ports of the southern Baltic is the Horizon 2. A research ship of the Maritime Academy in Gdynia with Marian Grzech serving as its captain. We will be accompanied by students of the Maritime Academy as well as tourism and maritime industry experts from partner countries taking part in the project. Gdynia bids us farewell with a beautiful sunset, marking the beginning of an extraordinary adventure. The first leg of our journey takes us to Wismar. Welcomed by the cries of terns, the creaking of tackle, the smell of smoked fish and the warmth of Gothic brickwork, we immediately travel back to distant times. The medieval atmosphere is almost palpable. Wismar was once a Slavic settlement and later a member of a Hanseatic League. Its complex history is present in every detail, in every brick, as it is in its cuisine and traditions. Walking down the narrow cobblestone streets, we admire the architecture of the city. Wismar lies on the European route of brick Gothic. Its panorama is dominated by monumental red brick churches, and the town itself has preserved its almost unchanged historical center dating back to the Middle Ages. Owing to this, it has been included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. One of the places we go first is the Market Square. We learn about the old buildings of the city and its layout through a map in the form of a sculpture.
We have the second biggest market square in northern Germany, but we have the nicest. Don't forget the sentence. The nicest.
The market is surrounded by colorful houses, a town hall and a distinctive fountain in the shape of a rotund. Typical of the local architecture and one of the oldest buildings, testament to the history of the town, is the Alter Schwiede, dating back to the 13th century. Today it houses a restaurant.
In 1648, Wismar became Swedish, and then, till 1803, 155 years we were Swedish.
There are many more remnants of the Swedish heritage. The smallest and most colorful are the Swedish heads.
It is a lion on the head, and the lion is a very, very strong animal, and this decoration should protect or against the enemies were the pirates, and the boss of the pirates were Mr. Störtebeker.
We go on a little further to see a lone tower of St. Mary's Church. Only this tower remains from the oldest shrine in the city. Where the buildings once stood, sculptures have been placed showing the outline of the old church. You can imagine what a powerful and magnificent structure it must have been. The seductive scent floating in the air reminds us that it is time to try the local cuisine. And there is a wide selection with an abundance of restaurants and small eateries in Wismar. Most of them serve dishes based on typically local ingredients. Even the most demanding palates will probably be satisfied.
When you are in Wismar, you have to go down to the old port and you have to make shopping around the boats and have to make looky or have to look what kind of fish they have there. You have to taste it also. Smoked German fish is very delicious.
Moving back to the Middle Ages, it is impossible not to mention what was once most important for Wismar and contributed to the wealth of the city. Of the nearly 200 former breweries, only Brauhaus am Lohberg remains, continuing the 500-year tradition of Wismar beer. The most popular is Mümme, and it is a toast with this beer that we finish our wonderful first day. After a few hours of cruising, we're welcomed to one of the most beautiful port cities in northeastern Germany, where the sailor's heart beats more strongly and where one can feel the breath of the old times. The Middle Ages were the golden age of Rostock's history. The city became the second most important Hanseatic center after Lübeck. It survived occupation by the Danes and Swedes twice, but was severely damaged during the Second World War. This brief overview of Rostock's past shows that the rich history of the city provides many places worth seeing. Rostock does not lie directly on the Baltic Sea, but on the bay formed by the mouth of Warnow River. In 1323, Rostock incorporated the fishing settlement of Warnemünde to protect itself from the sea. This one small village has become a popular resort over time. We start the day on the Alterstrom Canal with a crispy bun filled with fresh fish. This is a unique place where, from the early morning, you can buy and taste the treasures of the sea in a fairy tale environment of fishing boats and sailing ships. Warnemünde is a perfect place for contemplation, observation, walking and feasting.
As you can see, it's really a very nice place with all these nice houses, nice restaurants and cafes, especially here on the Alter Strom. So it's really worth for a visit for everybody.
Tourists are attracted by the unusual beach where the sand is as fine as flour and there is enough space for everyone. The town landmark is right on the promenade, an old lighthouse with a view of the surrounding countryside. A walk along the narrow streets takes us back to the times when Warnemünde was a fishing village. Small wooden houses pressed against one another for the protection from the wind. Colorful boats moored at the waterfront are one of the most picturesque views of the town. We board one to admire the surrounding nature from the water and to quickly reach the center of Rostock. Yeah. Sailing up the Warnow River, enjoying refreshing Rostock beer and smoked mackerel, we feast our eyes. From the water, Rostock makes a great impression. Giant granaries, port warehouses, Gothic architecture, and the towers of 4 churches from which approaching enemies were spotted.
Everything fine? Then let's go this way.
The city walls, countless watchtowers and 22 gates provided security. Through the remains of one of them, the city welcomes us. Rostock has less obvious charms. You can find the more unusual sides of the city on your own, hidden in the side streets and alleys which you often stumble across by accident, Among these small tenements are craft studios and interesting shops, as well as chic locations, like this charming French restaurant. In such a relaxed atmosphere, time drifts along slowly. The day is over. On the way back to the ship, along cobbled streets, we head to Newmarket Square. These unusual places, just a short distance from Rostock, offer a very different sort of tourist attraction.
These places and the lands, the fields around, the farmers around, have made this country rich once, and now by today new people moved in, this old cultural heritage, and they actually present new stories and old stories, and just feel obliged to come here.
We can take part in artistic events, concerts and parties. With the castle as a backdrop, we can enjoy coffee and find interesting souvenirs in the countless nooks and crannies. As guests of this Baroque mansion, we can savor the local cuisine, made with fresh, locally grown ingredients.
This is zucchini with pesto made from carrot greens and sunflower seeds, and you can help yourselves.
Away from the urban bustle, but still near the city, time flows more slowly. We could stay longer, but another town is calling. Another destination can be seen in the distance. The white cliffs in the sunlight are a sign that we are approaching the east coast of the island of Rügen and the resort of Sassnitz. There is a good reason why Sassnitz is often referred to as the Azure Coast of the North. Beautiful views, the proximity of nature make it an ideal place to relax.
Menschen, die nach Sassnitz kommen, suchen Ruhe.
People coming to Sassnitz look for peace and quiet.
Sie können hier wunderbare Spaziergänge machen.
They can enjoy great walks through our romantic beech forest, along the coast, or in the old town.
Historischen Ortskern finden Sie dort Ruhe, ein mediterranes.
They have a peaceful and Mediterranean atmosphere with small pubs, streets and charming old houses.
Nicht zu viel Trubel.
There is no bustle, like in the big cities or other Baltic resorts. You can find real peace of mind here that relaxes you during your vacation.
Wunderbar für einen entspannten Urlaub.
Until the end of the 19th century, Sassnitz was a small fishing village, which with the development of tourism evolved into a popular holiday resort. In that time, many magnificent guest houses and a harbour were built. One of the main attractions of the city is the 1,500-meter-long pier, which runs along the breakwater. At the end there is a distinctive octagonal lighthouse that was built in 1903. Much of the city consists of architecture from the period since 1945. But in the center, there is a small old town with remnants of the charming wooden spa architecture. Strolling down the steep streets, it's worth keeping an eye out for local artists. Eugeniusz Kozik collects memorabilia related to the city, and in a small garage converted to a gallery, he also exhibits and sells his works inspired by the area. Around 200 years ago, the natural splendor of the region inspired the German painter Caspar David Friedrich. In his famous painting, he captured what is most valuable for Sassnitz, the chalk cliffs of Rügen. This is an off-road vehicle called Hanomag, and in this special means of transport we set off for a meeting with a Baltic pearl, the Jasmund National Park.
We're here at the highest point of the chalk cliffs of Rügen. It's 118 meters high. You can see here a viewing platform over the whole Baltic area and inside the UNESCO World Heritage.
In addition to spectacular views, you can take an interactive trip in time and explore the secrets of nature. The tourist center offers a wide range of exhibitions, films and tours of local culture and wildlife. Our trail to the next town leads through a narrow Stralesund Sound. an interesting change from the endless sea waters. The banks of the Sound shelter secluded harbours and small bays, and the life on the water is pulsing. Flowing across the so-called Gate of Rügen, we see a beautiful panorama of the Hanseatic city of Stralsund. The unique character of the city can already be seen from the port side. The houses of the old seafarers, old granaries and the outline of the old town create an architectural contrast to the island of Rügen. The modern building of the Oceanarium, which truly stands out from the old harbour developments and yet complements them beautifully, constitutes one of the most visited tourist attractions. Spanning an area of almost 10,000 square meters, some 7,000 species of marine animals and plants have been collected here. Thematic exhibitions encourage interactive exploration of the underwater world. Of course, the aquariums and the thousands of specimens make a great impression, from the smallest to the largest. At the very top of the Oceanarium, there are Peruvian penguins, watching the beautiful panorama of the city, the center of which we are heading for.
It's an Hanseatic city, and every visitor will see until today because of the buildings we have here. We have these huge churches, we have these merchant houses, and all of these houses are made of brickstone, and this makes the city quite unique.
It is no wonder that the old market has been added to the UNESCO World Heritage List. The towers of 3 churches dominate the skyline of the city. The largest is St. Mary's Church, which when built in the 16th century was the tallest building in Europe. The interior boasts a spectacular altar, numerous chapels and crypts, reminding us of the size of the city in the distant past.
It was something unique here in Stralsund, to be buried inside the church. You had to be very rich to be buried here in front of the choir and the main altar.
The interior of another building that once served as a church is definitely worth a visit. The edifice of the former monastery of St. Catherine houses the Museum of the Sea. Colorful exotic fish, sharks, turtles, and the extraordinary atmosphere of the place make it exceptional. This Baltic city is a real treasure trove of old stories, as well as the places associated with them.
There are many hidden places in Stralsund. There are many narrow streets you can discover, and on these narrow streets you find many small places where people sell goods and they work there with enthusiasm and they deliver unique souvenirs.
Just as in this little pottery workshop, where an idea for unusual souvenirs was born out of a love for the city and its Gothic bricks. You can recreate your own little Stralsund. Stralsund passions also include playing cards. The city was the largest producer in the world for more than 150 years. Today, this old tradition has been resurrected by several enthusiasts.
The quality is in our responsibility, and I can feel it with every card I take in my hands.
In the small atmospheric factory, people remain passionate operating the old traditional presses.
I print the card, I collect the cards, and we have guests coming, and it's communication, and it's talking about what I do, what the others do. And we work together with the youngsters, and they are working here and they're learning here for life. And that's one part of our job, and I really love that.
You will surely fall in love with this place. Sailing across the Oder, the second largest river in Poland, the monumental view of Szczecin appears before our very eyes. A city of water, greenery, a city of freedom. Welcomed by the tempting sweet smell of chocolate floating in the air, thanks to the nearby factory of this sweet treat, we begin our conquest of the port city. A city with a stormy past, full of monuments, modernity, multicultural history, omnipresent greenery. a city with a unique character that captivates you from the very first sight. From the water, the view of Chrobry embankment is one of the representative points of the city. From the crown, there is a magnificent view of the harbour and embankments. It is here that the largest and most beautiful sailing ships in the world have moored several times already for the tall ships races and the final leg. Water and greenery constitute more than a half of the size of the city, while the proximity to the sea attracts tourists and water sports enthusiasts like a magnet. Szczecin is a city full of important historical events. We are going to several accessible areas of the former Szczecin shipyard. In the communist period of rule, significant events for Poland and Europe took place right here. The first of the famous agreements with the ruling government was signed on the premises, marking the beginning of a hopeful period called later the Carnival of Solidarity. As we head towards the city center, we visit another place where Szczecin dwellers said no to the communist authorities. On the historic Solidarity Square, where tragic events for Szczecin had taken place, a unique building was constructed. The Upheavals Dialogue Center is a modern museum, place for meetings and discussions on the latest history of the city, region, Poland and Europe.
And free peoples everywhere.
The edifice emerging from the ground was named the best public space in Europe and best building in the world. The museum is located in the neighborhood of another architectural icon of the city, considered the most beautiful building in Europe, the Mieczysław Karłowicz Philharmonic Hall. The Golden Sun Hall and the Moon Hall can seat over 1,000 music lovers. We go to one of several parks in the city, Kasprowicza Park. This green enclave stretches beyond Jasna Błonia and hides a unique place. The Rose Garden, with almost 100 species of these most beautiful flowers. Here, during the spring and summer, concerts, workshops and dance parties are held, attracting residents and tourists alike. A star-like layout of Szczecin squares is reminiscent of the French capital, earning the city the nickname Paris of the North. Its center consists of large roundabouts and streets, and along these beautiful eclectic houses stretch. In one of these, the oldest working cinema in the world is located. Pioneer 1907 is an extremely charming and intimate cinema that is listed in the Guinness World Records. The next place we visit certainly deserves to be included in the Book of Records. Many meters underground in the cold basement of a former 19th century brewery, liquor valued by connoisseurs all over the world and produced only in Szczecin lies maturing in oak wine barrels, the oldest of which date back to 1947. Starka, often referred to as the gold of Szczecin.
In the smell and taste you can find really Polish tradition, Polish history, Polish nature.
It is the noblest and most mysterious of all Polish liquors. Its story is over 500 years old, and a walk through the basement of the factory is an extraordinary experience, comparable only to sampling this most sophisticated alcoholic drink. Rich in new experiences, warmed up from the inside, we bid Szczecin farewell. The memory of time well spent here will be with us for a very long time. When captivating reefs and rocky islands emerge from the water in the morning fog, we are sure to have reached the southernmost Swedish archipelago. The beautiful Karlskrona, the crown of the king.
Oh, Karlskrona is a beautiful city. It's surrounded by water, built on 33 islands. So you have water everywhere.
We begin our exploration of the city on the Great Market. It is one of the largest markets in Scandinavia. Strolling along the streets, we feel the energy of the modern city melding into the omnipresent spirit of the past.
The city plan of Karlskrona is made during the time when it was Baroque. We still have that city plan here on this island. We can still see it, and that's amazing and very special for this city. And that was why it also became a World Heritage.
In the middle of the Great Market there is a statue of King Charles XI, who founded the city and today proudly admires his work. Nicknamed the sunniest city of Sweden, there is one cool sight in Karlskrona that we simply may not miss. It is worth standing in a long queue to the Glacier ice cream parlor to get a scoop of ice cream that has long reached cult status. And the portions are huge.
It's a place where you relax, where you feel that you're in a small town, a small city. You feel your shoulders drop and you can breathe, and it's a good feeling.
If you want to feel as if you were on a desert island, just cross the bridge to the island of Stockholm, to the last underdeveloped skerry in the city center. In the old days, the wives of the fishermen came to the city from the islands to sell fish caught by their husbands. Today, only a sculpture of a fisherman's wife stands as a reminder of this practice. Nowadays, the fish market serves as a marina for coastal shipping. The Naval Museum is a must-see in Karlskrona. From the outside, it promises to be unique, and inside, the world's largest collection of figureheads can be found. It is quite a sight. Figureheads are large, impressive ornaments mounted onto the bows of Swedish warships. You can also experience life and work on the submarine HMS Neptune. You can learn about the conditions of everyday life at sea. Navigate by the stars in the horizon, or learn the reasons behind Sweden's neutrality during the Cold War. The trip along the line of fortifications that once defended Karlskrona is a unique opportunity to get to know the city's history. Fortresses were built at different times. Construction of the oldest one began with the creation of the naval port.
One of the islands, the fortifications, Kungsholmen, is the eldest fortress that still is military in the whole world. It has been military since 1680, and that's why it's so unique.
This is not the inside of a submarine. We have been locked in a terrifying room, and we will only be released after solving a variety of tasks, step by step. We decided to say farewell to Karlskrona in a very unique way. Bodaborg, 70 rooms, 23 obstacle courses. These puzzles require strength, a fit body, an agile mind, and of course teamwork. All this guarantees an unforgettable experience, fun and the thrill of a good Swedish crime story.
Good luck!
Thank you, we need luck.
Let's now move on and discover more stories. Modernity based on the power of tradition, peace, harmony and unique climate and breathtaking views. This is Kalmar in a nutshell, one of the oldest cities in southern Sweden. At first, there was only a watchtower for defending the land against pirates from the Baltic. Later, a fortress was built to control the movement of ships in the Kalmar Strait. It was here in 1397 that the Kalmar Union brought Sweden, Denmark and Norway under one crown. The Castle of Kalmar is one of the most powerful and best preserved buildings in Scandinavia. It has witnessed many events and was rebuilt numerous times. Yet it is still undoubtedly a showcase of the city, and it's where we are going.
Hello.
The restoration of the historic interior of Kalmar Castle lay in the hands of esteemed architects who toiled for decades. The results are amazing. The monumental rooms and chambers that once housed the monarchs easily enchant visitors with their distinguished atmosphere.
Around the castle, you have a lot of possibilities just to walk around and see for yourself the history growing up on the walls. The castle has a lot of recreations and people are using it for recreation all year round. Taking a picnic, taking just a walk during the evening nights here.
The city grew around the walls of the fortress in front of the castle. Later, land development moved a little further. Galmastan, a Kalmarian old town, is very different from the notion we usually associate with this kind of settlement.
Kalmar is one of the most interesting places for me. I have been traveling a lot for my youth, and I always find Kalmar inspiring for me because it's very international during the summertime, and during the winter we have a little bit slower, steady going here, but a lot of people anyhow.
In an unusual symbiosis with people live rabbits. They make their burrows in the nooks and crannies that surround the fortress. It is not difficult to see them in the parks or in the streets, especially where the city comes to life. Walking towards the center, we pass the tallest building in Kalmar. Today, this 19th century water tower serves as an unusual block of flats. The view from its windows is certainly enviable. From here you can see the longest bridge in Sweden. Being 6 kilometers long, it connects the island of Ålandia with the mainland. The cathedral towers over the city center. Built by a German architect at the turn of the 17th and 18th centuries, it is one of the most outstanding Baroque works in Sweden, constructed entirely of stone. The regional museum, where you can admire the most valuable exhibits from the Kronan shipwreck, is also worth a visit. The ship sank in 1676 during the battle between the Swedish fleet and the Danish-Dutch fleet. The wreck was discovered in 1980, and since then, for 6 weeks a year, scuba divers bring up even more artifacts. 30,000 items have already been recovered, including the world's largest collection of cannon, found in the same place at the same time. Outside the center, the climate is a bit more peaceful. Typical Swedish cottages, surrounded by water and many places for relaxation or active leisure. From our ship, the city presents itself beautifully. The only regret we have is that the journey to these exceptional cities of the southern Baltic has reached its end.
Using the ship to get from one destination to the next one is the most essential part, because then you can think about, tours on the way, lectures on the way. Small destinations should promote that slow cruising. Everybody knows about slow food, and slow cruising will mean with smaller groups on a very slow path, doing things you could not offer on big cruises. And for example, that Szczecin Bay yesterday, that was so marvelous, and I had so many ideas how to promote this to the cruise operators, to offer something special which was never in their mind.
For me, the difference between sightseeing from the sea and from the coast is that sometimes you are not able to find some places to see the, for example, canals that leading to the cities, and this is quite wonderful to see just this nature, this climate all around the ship.
I will highly recommend to other people to travel by small cruise ships.
How will the tourist market in the Baltic develop in the years to come? Are small and medium ships the future of tourism? Johann's pilot cruise has proven that there is great potential, and that the cities of South Baltic are just waiting for visitors who want to experience the unforgettable.